So actually, I wanted to ask you about him because I know that you put him kind of in some of your videos, and you talked a little bit about like how Doug and my husband are very similar. Yeah, in the sense that like they're super optimistic, and they're super kind, and they're super hopeful. And I'm just like,
right, I know, yes, that's me. And if you watch my videos, Doug is always like, it'll be okay.
It'll be fine.
Like he held out hope until the very last second. We have that last ultrasound. The doctor ran to go ask a specialist a question, so I knew like he held out hope until that last second. So I think I probably would be in a much worse place if it wasn't for him. Because he doesn't let me just like stew in me being sad. Because he's like, it's okay. Like he never, like he got upset like the days around the DNC. And I also, we've talked about this. We need to have like a joint session lately because he will try to protect me from how he's feeling. And I'm like, no. And I try to protect him sometimes from how I feel, but when I feel something, I just gotta feel it. And I'll just be angry or I'll be mad and I'll be crying and he'll see it. And I know he doesn't like to see me cry. But I definitely think I would be like, in hard times, having somebody like that with you is such like a blessing because I'll ask him, like, I remember asking him, like, Doug, am I gonna be sad about this forever? And he's like, no, because I won't let you. So I know. I'm like, he's just been the best. Oh, my makeup. I know. It's so weird. Like, every time when I talk about him, I get upset. Like, I talk about me, but when I talk about him, because I don't want this for him either.
It can be challenging when it's like, I think that a lot of times we go through things and it's like, I feel like I can do this, I can do this, but then when it's somebody else that makes it a little more difficult.
It's so weird. Every single time in the story. Because when I filmed it on my channel, I started crying and I was talking about him too. I was like, you've just been so great. And I've been crazy.
Trust me, we're here.
I know, right? And I'm like, I can't stop being like, right now, but just love me through it, right?
And he seems like he has been. Like, he seems like he has definitely been trying to be that rock for you, which is super.
Yeah. But I just wish he didn't have to be so strong all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we can cry together. But, you know, he's not into that again.
Yeah,
no.
Oh, our men.
I know.
Oh, we'll get them there one of these days. Okay. I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
One, like, I know that I get a lot of questions, like, being young and married and, you know, just, I don't know what the other requirements are, but I get a lot of questions about, like, when are you starting a family? When are you going to have a baby? Like, people just putting children into my womb. And so I would imagine that you get a lot of that as well. Like, how do you handle those kinds of conversations?
So, I just started being honest with people, and sometimes people can't take it. Like, you ask a question that personal, especially going through infertility, like, that's something you should never ask somebody. Whether people want to have kids, or they can't have kids, or they don't want to have kids, that's none of your business. Like, to be quite perfectly honest. Yeah. And I know, like, especially, you know, in casual settings, I will answer people truthfully. Yeah. Like, well, it's taking longer than we thought. So, here it is. And it's interesting now, because I share a lot of it on social media and on my, like, personal YouTube. So when I meet people, and they friend me, on, like, in real life, I think they're like, she's been going through something. But I'm going to keep it authentic, so hopefully you see that and you never ask me where my kids are. Like, that's just how it is. So I usually tell people, like, what it is. Like, oh, you know, well, we're going through treatments. We're hoping to have a family soon. Or I say at work. See, I don't know how to handle it at work yet because I can't do that clap back like I can do that at work. I can't be like, well, actually, Jan, we've been having problems for like 2 years. But I don't know. I work in a very male-dominated space, and I feel like if I said that to maybe a woman, they would understand better. Like, we have this thing coming up where we have like a buddy, and the people have to interview us, and I know that question's gonna come up, so I'm just gonna be like, well, actually, this is what's going on, but don't put that like in writing down on the interview. But
thank you.
But we'll tell you what's going on here, just so you can commiserate.
Even an appropriate question to ask? Like,
I don't know. People need to stay out of people's reproductive organs.
Yeah.
It's like a cultural just like one of these things you do. Like, you ask people, how are you doing? Nobody really cares to hear things other than fine, good, or I'm okay. People really don't care to know, but it's just something people ask. And I'm like, if I don't want to know, or if I know you're going through something, I won't ask, because I know you're going through a hard time. I know you're going through hell. And I think that drove me the craziest in the beginning. People would ask me how I'm doing, and I'm like, well, how do you think I'm doing? Like, I just wish people would ask, what they actually mean. Like, how are your emotions today? Or how are you physically? And I try to, in work, it hasn't really happened since I work a lot remotely. But when I was pregnant, I was on a business trip. So that was kind of hard, because I didn't really want to tell them either. Because, again, it's just a bunch of men. I just kind of try to say, well, actually, I just use it as, like, a teaching moment. Like, actually, that question can be a little hurtful to people who either don't want children or they can't have children. But yeah, we're trying to have kids, so maybe we will one day. Like, and then it kind of shuts people up. Just
yeah, they recognize that they probably shouldn't.
Right, that's your root, and then you probably will never ask somebody else
exactly.
if you have children, or why don't you have children. I think that's the one that gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have children? When are you going to have children?
It's like,
right, especially in things like people who aren't immediate family. When you go to like a reunion or something, and I haven't been to one yet, but I know that's gonna be like, how long have you been married, and
why don't you all have
right?
children?
Well, actually, Aunt Sarah, here's my YouTube video.
Just watch
right about why we don't have kids yet. Yeah.
And I think that hearing your experience and your journey has actually shed a lot of light on that for me, because I always just wanted to be like, say something really snappy and just have some kind of clapback, and I'm like, y'all just need to get out of my uterus.
Right.
Like,
And I try to be, have some tact with it. I don't say it as an attack. I say it so that you'll know better in the future. Because until people start talking about things like, infertility or child loss or adoption or what have you, people will just ask. And I'm sure people who even adopt, like, that's a whole other thing. Like, is this child yours? Don't ever ask anybody that. Like, I don't, how dare you? Yeah. Or not even people who are adopted, just people who don't look like their birth parents might be biracial. Like, that's just, it's none of your business. Right. Yeah.
So, last thing. What kinds of advice, I know earlier you mentioned like advocating for yourself, which I think is a really important conversation to have, particularly for Black women, but what kinds of advice would you give to women who either are going through infertility issues or who haven't even started this process yet? How would you tell them to be selfish as they're going through this?
So, yeah, the advocate, that's the number one. I've been asked that question a couple of times, like through chats and just talking to other people. But advocating is so important, even if you're not looking to have kids, if you're not looking to have kids right now, just knowing how your body works. Because I think there are a lot of things that, medical doctors will prescribe you that you just kind of take without question. Like being prescribed, birth control for the treatment of acne. Like that's I can go off on a whole other video, like of how overprescribed some certain medications can be, not just birth control, to women. And especially Black women. And, you see all those articles about, like, Serena Williams even had a situation when she was giving birth, how the doctors weren't listening to her. Like, she knew exactly what was wrong with her, and they were just not trying to hear it. So that's always number one. But being selfish, like, I know it's so hard, and I think I say this now, but going through, trying again, like, don't stress yourself out. Like, you will over-Google, you will over-test, you can make yourself insane. And I listen to this podcast that's about infertility all the time. It's called Beat Infertility, and she always asks, like, what's some advice? And this one lady was like, just do the things. Like, you stop your life to go through all this stuff a lot, but if you want to go on the vacation, go on the vacation. Like, change the job, do whatever. Like, this could be, you don't know how long this process could be or how short it could be. Maybe it's a short process for you, but you don't want to be looking back like 5 years from now like, oh, I wish we had went to India, before we had like 4 kids or something like that. Or I wish we had done this because my marriage started breaking down, started suffering. Like, while we were going through treatment. But yeah, I think that's like the main thing. Do the things. Just do them. Like, don't say, oh, well, I might be pregnant, you know, in 3 months' time. Like, I've been like, that's what I would do. Like, I'd be like, okay, well, we might be doing this at this time, so we can't go here. And, you know, for the time I was pregnant, there was a lot of things that I wasn't going to do this summer. Now I'm doing all the things. I'm going to do all the things. You just have to keep living your life. Like, don't let things stop you. There's some people who are like, oh, I don't drink up until the 2-week wait until you recognize you're pregnant. Nothing's going to happen if you do drink. Have the drinks. Live your life. And don't Google. That's probably the number one.
Yeah.
Googling will have you off of cliffs. But if I will say, but that goes back to advocating. You don't know like how to get educated about stuff like this. There's a good podcast by a Black woman called Fertility Friday. She just talks about like health. There's one called Sisters in Loss. A friend introduced me to that after I shared my story about loss. There is a lot of spaces for Black women, and there's Fertility for Colored Girls. That's a good one. And they also have a book about infertility that I've read. I'm not done yet.
Well, we're going to put all of that in the
I'll put it down below. But Fertility
go.
for Colored Girls. And if you're going to Google stuff, I would stay off of WebMD. Stay off of message boards. Because everybody's story is the same.
Yes.
They're going to say, my sister found this and this worked and all that. What really helped me to make like really informed decisions was looking at actually published papers and the research behind them. Like, you need to go to a source. Like, you need to go to Mayo Clinic, like a research institution, and find out, you know, what this is. And then if you need to, if you have any of those PCOS symptoms I message, or you have endometriosis, or your periods are really, really heavy and really painful, go get that checked out. Or like, just be adamant that, hey, something's wrong, and not even just for having a baby, just for your well-being. Yeah. Those are the two.
So, I think those are great. Thank you so much, Brittney, again. You
Yes,
are a
thanks for
wealth
having me
of
over
information.
here.
Of course, absolutely. You are just a wealth of information. We are so appreciative of it.
Thanks.
So, that's it. Being selfish emotionally as you are going through challenges with fertility. We are so grateful to Brittney from BellBelleBella for coming on to the art of being selfish and sharing her story and sharing some tips about being selfish emotionally as you may be going through this process. Look forward to the rest of the month as we have other special guests on talking about faith as it comes to fertility issues in pregnancy, talking about being a selfish mama, and talking about being a professional woman. How do we be selfish in the professional areas of our lives as we are going through pregnancy and going through motherhood? So I hope that you all will enjoy this series. I hope that you all will welcome our guests onto the show, and I hope to see you all next Selfish Saturday. Bye.